This is the Sunshine Cathedral Perspective. Queer God Squad answers, did God make us queer? Did God make us queer is a frequently asked question. The super simple answer is yes. But for those who want to go deeper, I don't imagine a God choosing who's gay and who isn't, who's born rich or poor, who lives to 30 and who lives to 100, who is born in a war zone and who is born in peace and prosperity. A great diversity of life emerges from the ground of being, meaning we're all made in the divine image and all genuine love is sacred. But that's not the same as Geppetto making a bunch of puppets and deciding which ones gets the added blessing of queerness. I'm glad I'm queer, but I don't believe it's because God put that on the order form. We are perfect pieces in the puzzle of life and are part of the wholeness we call God. So in very simplistic terms, we could say God made us queer. I prefer to think of us as evolving in the ways that serve the greater whole best, and it's good for the whole that some of us be queer, and those of us who embrace and celebrate our queerness feel blessed. So that's the thing about my theology is I don't have a theistic, beyond me, beyond this world God at a computer punching all the buttons to make things happen, or above the little puppet stage pulling all the strings, making all that happen. And that's just not my understanding of God. That's not a mature understanding of God, for that matter. And so God is more of a question for me than an answer. And it's a question you spend your life exploring. And then you find lots of possibilities. You even commit to some of them for a while. And then you realize even that wasn't big enough. And so you keep exploring and you find more possibilities. And you really attach to one of them. And so the search goes. In that model, there's never anyone to sign the executive order. There's never anyone to give the stamp of approval. Things do evolve, things do happen. But there is a lot in life that's about cause and effect. There's a lot in life that is about what we experience because of what other people did. And there's a lot in life that is random. And of course, everything is connected. You know, a butterfly flaps its wings in one place and a hurricane happens in another. And because everything is so connected. But that's still different than someone in their office pushing the button, signing the papers, making things happen. So no, I don't believe that there is a God somewhere who decided, okay, I'm going to create this kid named Darrell, and I'm going to have him be born in the armpit of the world, and I'm going to have him be raised around a lot of people who will not understand him and will despise the difference. And of course not. Of course that's not how things were mapped out. I landed by accident of birth. I landed where I landed, and I am who I am. And then by the choices I made thereafter, I learned how to navigate that, make the most of it, celebrate it, benefit from it, make mistakes and learn from those. And that's called life. So I don't think, even though I think being queer is sacred, because I think being alive is sacred. I think queer love is sacred because I think love is sacred. I think being queer is perfect because here I am. I am the way I am. I am the way I'm meant to be. I am the way that I naturally and perfectly evolved. So yes, being queer is perfect. And it might even be special in that less people are queer than are. So that makes it a little special. You know, just like, if you're the only one to have a thing or do a thing, then that stands out. So it may be special. It's certainly sacred. It's certainly good. It's certainly natural. And that's still not to say that a super person, invisible person in another realm made a lot of decisions. And my life is just the comic book that they wrote as the pages flip. I just don't believe that. So yes, it's good to be queer. It's sacred to be queer. Queer love is holy. Queer people are fascinating and interesting, and our communities are delightful. And I don't blame God for anything, but also don't give God a lot of credit for that. This is just how we've evolved. This is just how we are. And then how we celebrate it and find joy in it and share the gifts of it. That's about us. It's all good. And I'm happy to see God in the middle of all that, but not as making our choices for us and not as predetermining what we are. I don't think God made people with autism to have autism. I don't think God made people who go bald to go bald. I don't think people who are 6'7", that was God's little blessing to them. Things happen. It's all good. It's all perfect and in order and marvelous. And if God is process, then yeah, we can say God is in that process. God is the process whereby all these things happen. So if you're not going to think very deeply about it, yes, God made you queer. But if you want to go a little deeper, I would take God out of the equation and say that for multiple reasons, all good, you are what you are, and now what you do with that is your gift to the world.
Right, right. I agree. Queerness is a gift. I don't believe that God created us to be queer or not.
Or at all.
It truly, exactly, it truly is. It's totally random in my book. It's just totally random. It's like being female. You know, okay, that's chromosomes, but I don't think that really God had anything to do with that. Having brown eyes, again, I don't really think God had anything to do with it. To my mind, it is kind of just random. But to accept that they're just randomness in our life, that's a process. That's a journey.
Well, I didn't start there.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. To accept that things are just that random can be exceptionally difficult. But I think that if we can work through that things are that random, it actually can bring a lot of peace to our lives. We don't have to understand everything. Sometimes we are just who we are.
You know, I was just thinking about as a kid growing up, God got blamed for everything. Good or bad.
God will get you.
God, it was all God. God. And later in life, I like, okay, God is just a construct.
Yeah.
God is what I make God to be when I needed God, a God in that moment. And I never thought that, you know, of God. Maybe I questioned God, why does that person, or God, why is that situation and not me? So it wasn't about trying to figure out even those, but I think at just some point I just let it go. You know, I am who I am. I am who I am based upon my life experiences. Maybe
I wouldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a sense of spirituality of where I was at the time influenced my thinking, but certainly not God. You know, this whole concept, you know, God performed the first surgery. You know, taking the weirdo out of
Who said that? Nobody said that.
Oh, you didn't grow up on that
I
one?
did not.
Oh, God was the one who performed the first surgery.
Wow.
And, you know, when I started grappling with that concept of a God at that point, I was like, okay, wait a minute. No. Just no. Just no.
God could make the body, but then had to have a surgical technique to make the second person?
Exactly.
I guess.
God didn't get it right the first time. You
That's
got to
what
do a
I'm saying.
surgery.
So, okay,
yeah.
you know, and perform the first surgery, get the rib
Okay.
out of man, and get it into woman, and you know, it's like, and when I start wrestling with the creation story as read, and you start poking a lot of holes into that theory, you realize that this whole God thing may not be what it's made up to be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of holes you can punch in that creation story.
My folks weren't as optimistic as your folks. It wasn't God did everything. God did everything that was scary. So if you get run over by a bus, if you got run over by a bus, the Lord was calling you home. If you won the lottery, you were just lucky some bitch.
I see what
Okay.
you mean. I am a left-handed queer black male.
Ooh, abomination.
Could God do anything more to make me
I
even
think
more perfect?
I think it's illegal for you to exist in
Oh, I am telling you. So I understand this conversation because I've lived it. I had people in the family who said, oh, we've got to fix that left-handedness. And of course, you know, when I came out as gay, a whole lot of people in the family are still fanning themselves. Whatever happened to free will? Whatever happened to the conversation that we were born and then everything else that happened were choices that we made at some point? When we were kids, no, not so much, because I grew up with God the surgeon also. But at some point, we grew out of that. We learned a lot of things that were different than what our families were teaching us. And that's what makes us who we are, I think, not some puppeteer, as the bishop said. So yeah, as a left-handed queer black male, I say, right on, God.
All right.
And if God is a puppeteer, not the puppet, I want to be Madam. Now, I want to be Madam. That's the puppet I want to be. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying that I chose to be gay. I chose to accept it. I chose to celebrate it. I chose to identify as queer.
Oh, absolutely.
But I didn't choose to be gay. But that's just because I didn't.
Right.
If I could and did, that would still be a legitimate choice. I don't know anyone who chose to be straight or gay or bi or but, and people who swear you can didn't choose theirs, but they think you've chosen yours. And first of all, I don't know anyone who's chosen it. But secondly, if it were a choice, it'd be a legitimate choice.
Sure.
I just didn't get the chance to choose. This is how I am. Not because God preordained it, not because I'm rebelling against some dogmatic system, not because anything traumatizing happened. My mother used to work, there was two things. My mother had a car accident when she was pregnant with me, and she wondered if the terror of the moment had released too many feminine hormones, and that's what made me gay. And I would tell her, I said, I don't think that's how it works. And if it did, hooray for that. You know, because otherwise this might not have happened. So hooray that not only did you survive the thing, but here I am the way I am. And the other thing was she took medicine. She had several miscarriages, and she took medicine to have a. They don't even use this medicine anymore because people were born with a lot of birth defects, and I was born with spinal birth defects, which I have a lot of back pain. Although not so much now because I'm the best doctor in the world. But and she was wondered if there was another defect, if this was another side effect. And again, I said, I don't think that's how it works, but if it is, then you got two miracles. I was born, and I was born this way. And so I didn't choose. But that is not to say that it would be a bad choice. Right. If you could choose, and this is what you chose, and it made you happy, it would still be a huge blessing, and we'd still say, you have a right to live this life. It just so happens, I don't think it's chosen for most people. It wasn't chosen for anyone at this table. No. But it's a good thing, which means if it was choosable, it'd be a good choice.